My name is Margot Goodhand. I'm going to get that check off my screen very soon. I'm the chair of the board of directors, and the annual general meeting is now called to order. So please mute your computers if you can. Robin is our board secretary who will be taking the minutes for the meeting, and she's already been introduced. Greg Connor is the chair of the board's development committee. Patricia Walker is the chair of the board's finance and audit committee. Julian Daly is the chief executive officer. Michelle Steele, our director of finance, and Kent Fullerton of Grant Thornton. Are you here? Just let me check and see if he's made it yet. He will be presenting, or he will be here, and will be, he's with our Place Society auditors. So we're expecting to hear from here. And our special guest speaker will be introduced later in the evening. So at this time, I also wish to acknowledge all of our Place staff for their outstanding efforts over the past year, and our heartfelt thanks to all of you. At this time, I'd like to throw this to Elder Fraser Smith, an elder and wisdom keeper from the Sartlip First Nation. We're very delighted, just delighted to have him here. So please, if you can, elders, yes, there you are. Can you come on the screen? You were here just a minute ago.
I don't know. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, there we are.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I'm honored, and I'm honored to be doing the open blessing for your meeting tonight, and I just want to thank Klaus for the opportunity to say the opening prayer for you folks. I ask him to bless each and every one on the board or in this meeting. I ask him, and I hope everything goes well and have a good meeting. All my relations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now we can go to our declaration of quorum. Our Place bylaws require a quorum of society members to be present for conducting the business of an AGM. So according to a special resolution passed March 20th, 2024, it is a quorum of members at a general meeting is 51% of the number of directors holding office on the day prior to the meeting, plus 5 members. So we need to achieve a quorum of at least 12 voting members in good standing to proceed with this evening's AGM. So I'm going to ask Robin Gifford to advise us how many members are present.
I'm still counting, but we are well in excess.
I believe we've got 19 at the moment. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, it's just a little bit of housekeeping. Each member will have received a notice of this meeting, which included the agenda, the 2023 AGM draft minutes, the audited financial statements, the minutes of our special general meeting of March 20th, 2024, and a list of candidates for elections to the board of directors and their bios. So we're hoping that you all had a chance to look at that. So what we'd like to do is get an approval of the agenda. So please be ready to vote yes or no once each motion is moved and seconded. So the first motion of the night is that the agenda for the 2024 AGM be approved. Yes or no? And Robin, you'll let us know when you've got enough to.
Yes, we have enough.
And to do that yes button, you have to press down from reactions at the very, there you go, reactions at the very bottom. And that's perfect. It's really hard to figure out how to get it off, but there you go. So we have a yes. I'm going to consider that to be passed. Oh, can we have a discussion of the agenda? Is there anything to discuss? Paul, you've got your hand up. And you're muted.
Yeah, just no, nothing to say.
Oh, okay.
Blow on the button.
Okay. So I've got the motion has passed. Then thank you. We've now got the approval of the AGM. Oh, Catherine's got your hand up? No, okay. Approval of the AGM's 2023 minutes. And I would like to, Robin, again, move that the minutes of the annual general meeting held on September 27th, 2023 be approved as presented. That is moved by Robin and seconded by, is it seconded by whom? I can second it. I think I can second it.
Bill,
Okay.
Bill is
There's
offering.
seconding. Yeah. Okay. Good. Any discussion? All right. And the vote. Call the vote. Great. I believe the motion has passed. Thank you. So the number 7 on our agenda is approval of our special general meeting minutes of March 20th, 2024. And I'd like, Robin has moved this motion that the minutes of the special general meeting held on March 20th, 2024 be approved as presented. Do we have a seconder? Mano, thank you. Any discussion? All right, can we have a vote on that? I'll call the vote then. The motion is approved. Thank you very much. Now, let me see if I can get my yes done again. Okay, great. It's time for the chair's report. This is my last night as chair of the Our Place board. So forgive me if I get a little nostalgic. I wrote a few notes about it, but when I first joined the board in 2018, New Roads was very much a bleak youth detention center with a courtyard of cement, weeds, and rubble at its heart. And today that same courtyard, the heart of our men's therapeutic community center, is blooming, green and lush with beehives and chickens, fresh vegetables, meditation spots, and picnic benches. And every time I visit, I see hope and potential, creativity and growth. It is a powerful, transformative place, as has been my time with Our Place. It's here I learned the power of yes. When COVID hit and Victoria closed down, BC Housing turned to local service providers to help them open shelters for the unhoused, places to keep them safe. And some providers said no, they simply could not do it. They didn't have the staff, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the capacity. But Our Place staff and CEO Julian Daly said yes. They said yes to Tiny Town, to Capital City, to Russell Street. They said yes even when the board feared we couldn't take on one more project. It forced the organization to grow at an unprecedented rate and speed, but staff rose to the occasion because they knew it was the right thing to do. And looking back now, it feels like a bit of a miracle at how it all turned out. But really what it came down to was great leadership and a strong team with clear vision and mission. Today we manage 9 facilities in this community, from emergency overnight beds to transitional homes and shelters, to our new permanent housing site on Albina, to New Roads, that shining light in View Royal. And we've done it without fanfare and with the enormous support of the people of Victoria, people like you who have never failed to say yes when we need you. As Our Place prepares to open this island's first therapeutic community center for women, we know full well that challenges lie ahead. But I believe in our CEO and this remarkable team that he has assembled. And I believe in the wisdom and guidance provided by my fellow board directors who, even in the middle of a global pandemic, also always said yes. It's been an honor to serve. Thank you. Now it's my privilege to introduce that CEO, Julian Daly, and ask him to deliver his annual report.
Thank you very much, Margot. This last year has, I think, been another intense one, filled with activity, realized dreams, events, heartbreak, and with joy. It's been a year of deepening and embedding of practice and quality services, a year also of expanding those services, a year of aspirations achieved, and also at times a year of desperation felt. On balance, it has been a very good year for those we serve and for my colleagues, I feel. Feels like we've thrived in the last year, delivering even better and more comprehensive services to our family members. Services delivered with, and in many ways because of, the strong morale and deep commitment inside the organization. Our housing program, as Margot, said, we have many sites now, has stabilized significantly and has really gone almost without event, in the sense of the sites are very peaceful and people are getting on with their lives and improving their lives and being supported in new opportunities. But we also grew our housing offering this year. Tiny Town returned after a lot of work behind the scenes, shall we say, and it returned as the newly named Caledonia Place, and that brought 30 units back into circulation for people who are unhoused. We also received funding from the provincial government for 40 additional shelter mats and shelter beds as part of the process of supporting folk who are unhoused on our streets, off the streets and into shelter and on the pathway to housing. The opioid and drug crisis continued unabated, it felt like. But, Margot's already talked about this. New Roads went from strength to strength. We had a visit from our Premier, who was very complimentary about what we're doing at New Roads, not just when he was there, but I was told by 3 cabinet ministers that, he frequently referred to his visit to our place and to New Roads, and often talked about the need for more places like New Roads in our province. We also, in the last year, secured formally the funding, government funding for the men's TRC. So that's now 100% funded by government. Whereas some of you remember that up till last year, we were putting a significant amount of donations, nearly $1 million of general donations, into keeping that open. We also secured funding for a 20-bed women's TRC, and that is looking to open the end of this year. We also had Recovery Day last Saturday, which some of you came to, which was the first annual Recovery Day, celebrating people who are in recovery and their friends and family and staff who helped them get to that place. And also, and many of you are at this, the Hungry Hearts event on Saturday night. That again had a focus on the women's TRC and raised nearly $300,000 for that. So, amidst the darkness and the bleakness of the opioid and drug crisis, and it really is both those things, and it feels pretty hopeless some days, and you wonder where it will all end. As Margot said, and put more eloquently than me, New Roads remains, I think, a real beacon of hope. And it's one of the very, very few things that really works in terms of ending the opioid and drug crisis, certainly for the individuals who go through it. We also, and related to this, took steps towards becoming what we call a proactive recovery-orientated organization. And what that means is that we are now in the process of training all staff, all frontline staff, to have recovery conversations with folk who use our services, our family members, at all of our sites, not just at New Roads, but in our housing sites and at the community centre. Because we felt that maybe for too long we've we've been very good at reacting to people's desire to go into treatment or detox or recovery and helping them to get there. But we haven't always been as good at proactively putting those options in front of folk. And, there's a lot of reasons for that, not least that it can be very awkward, as anyone in this call knows, to raise the idea of treatment or detox or recovery with another human being. And we wanted to give our colleagues the skills and permission to do that. So we want to have recovery throughout our organization, to permeate our whole organization, and we started that this year. We've also seen a continued expansion of programs at our community center, some delivered by paid staff and others by volunteers. And I know we're going to hear more about volunteering later, but this has also been a year of increased volunteer activity in terms of our whole organization, not just the community center. We've also seen our food services and hygiene services experiencing demand increases, particularly for older folk who are struggling to make ends meet in this economic situation that we find ourselves in, and they're hard pressed to put 3 meals a day on the table. So come to us for some or all of those meals. We also, in the last year, launched our Pathways Off Pandora plan, which was a sort of a call to action in part, but also a call for the people who are currently unhoused on Pandora to be able to get to a better place, to secure the housing and shelter they need, but also the health services, particularly mental health and addiction services they need to not only get off Pandora, but to maintain their housing once they do get off, given that so many of the people who are unhoused on the street are unhoused because they've lost their housing or shelter because of their mental health and addiction. So we made a very public call for that to happen. And, it's been a strange and intense summer, but we're now in the place where every step of that plan that we put out there and the call to action is now being realized. The police, have focused in on removing criminal element from the streets who have been exploiting and trafficking unhoused folk. Island Health is stepping up to provide health services to people who are on the street, and BC Housing is stepping up to find shelter spaces for every single person who's currently unhoused. And we are part of a small group that meets every week to effect what they call the encampment response plan, which is essentially the plan that we put out there. And it's just very satisfying to finally see the action that's needed happening. And I know it's happening for a lot of reasons, but I like to think that it is in part happening, and it's happening in the way it's happening because of our constant advocacy for that to happen. Advocacy that often felt like it fell on deaf ears, but finally folk listened, and now the action is happening. Connected to that and other things, we've had a lot of media coverage this year. And I think we finally managed, especially in the last few months, to change some of the narratives about our place. As you know, there's been for quite a while a narrative that we created Pandora and the situation there, and that we've been enabling it, and it's our fault, and that people have blamed our place and homeless people, frankly, for a lot of the social problems facing this city. And I think what we've managed to do in the course of this year is to change that narrative and finally get through to people that we actually didn't create Pandora. We did not encourage it. In fact, we, more than anyone, apart from the people who are unhoused on Pandora, want the camping on Pandora to end and the people who are camping there to be in a better, healthier, safer place. And I think that message has finally got through. And that's positive for us, because now I think more and more people see us as part of the solution and not as the creator of the problem. I mean, there's still a way to travel with that narrative, but there's definitely been a turning on that. Our philanthropy work has been very successful this year. I just saw some recent data which says that nonprofits in BC have seen a 20 to 30% fall in donations over the last year. And yet, at our place, we are on budget to raise all the money that we hope to raise this year, and maybe we will exceed those targets, which is a phenomenal achievement for Janice, our 1-year-old now philanthropy director, and her team. But against all the odds, really, and against the trends that are out there, that we came through with donations that will allow us to continue the work that those donations pay for, particularly at the community center, and particularly our food services and our drop-in services and our hygiene services. So there's also much to look forward to in the coming year as well. I just want to touch on a few of those things because they started this year. In this last year, we hired our first manager of social enterprises, Paul Latour, who some of you will know as the previous founder and CEO of Hero Work. And he's now in the process of designing and establishing Our Place Social Enterprises, which will employ the men and women that we serve, starting first with New Roads and then into housing and then to community center, employing folk in dignified living wage work, and not only employing the folk that we serve and giving them economic opportunity, but also providing high quality services to the Victoria community. And again, showing people that Our Place isn't about keeping people where they're at, but quite the opposite. It's about supporting people along a continuum of health and care, so that they have healthier and better and more fulfilled lives. We're also started the process in the last year of a physical revamping of the community centre and increasing programming there, and we look forward to more of that in the coming year. And we just hired in this last year, a few months ago, a new manager of the community centre who starts, in fact, next week. And the final thing to look forward to in this year is also started in this year is Margot referenced, which is the women's TRC and the reunification housing for women that we're hoping to also bring on pretty simultaneously. We have not managed to open it as quickly as we would like because there is a desperate need, but we have done it as quickly as you can. There's only, even when government and permitting processes and contractors go as quick as they can, and they have, it still can feel very slow at times. But we've done the demolition work that was needed, and we are now in the midst of the renovation work and hope to have it open for 20 women by the end of the year. So much to celebrate in the last year, and I think much to look forward to in the coming year. I just want to finish by thanking you, our members, and my colleagues who are on the call and those who aren't on the call, and our volunteers who are on the call and who aren't on the call, and our board members, and of course the family members that we serve, without whom we really would be nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you. It's lovely. It's been a hard year, I know, but you've managed, and the staff have been amazing. So yeah, we thank you for that. We next up have the presentation of the audited financial statements, and our treasurer, I'm going to call on Patricia Walker, chair of the board's Finance and Audit Committee, and the treasurer, to introduce the presentation of these statements in 2 motions. So go ahead.
Thank you, Margot. Before we get into the meat of the financial section of this meeting, I'd like to thank Michelle Steele, our Director of Finance. She's been extremely helpful over the last year. She's provided both the board and the Finance and Audit Committee with prompt and accurate information and insight. And she's also been very helpful to me personally as treasurer. And I want to thank her for all her hard work over this past year. Thank you. Michelle will be leading us through the highlights of the Our Place Society audited financial statements for the year ending March 31st, 2024. Following her presentation, the floor will be open for questions. After this, Kent Fullerton, a partner of our auditors, Grant Thornton, will review the independent auditor's report, which is at the beginning of the financial statements. I'll now hand it over to Michelle.
Thank you. I will just share my screen here and bring up the statements. There we go. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for taking the time to attend tonight's annual meeting. It's my honor and pleasure to present the financial statements for Our Place Society for the fiscal year that ended on March 31st, 2024. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Kent Fullerton, partner for Grant Thornton, and his team for their continued support in performing the Our Place audit for more than 10 years, as well as providing Our Place with assistance and guidance throughout the year. Compared to the last few years, this past year was a relatively stable year of operations with only a few changes throughout the year. The notable changes that affect the statements were both the closure of the Tiny Town program in September of 2023, followed by the subsequent reopening of the program in February 2024. And the employment program was discontinued in June 2023 due to lack of government funding. Thanks to the strong and continued support of you, our members and donors, as well as government ministries such as BC Housing, Island Health, and the Ministry of Health and Addictions, who have stepped up in a significant way to improve the lives of those we serve, we have experienced another successful year, both in our operations and financially. I have jumped to page 3 of the financial statements. Page 1 and 2 are the independent auditor's report, which Kent will review at the conclusion of my presentation. This page is the statement of financial position, or balance sheet, as it's also referred to. The most significant change from the previous year is an increase in cash and cash equivalents by $3.6 million. Our Place received 3 years of funding for new roads in a lump sum payment at the beginning of the fiscal year from the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions. This cash is used to provide the operations at new roads. The increase in cash represents the remainder of 2 years of cash for new roads, and the balance is a $500,000 donation towards the construction of the new Women's Therapeutic Community Center that we're all excited about. Tangible capital assets, which is this line here, have decreased by $372,000, which represents the annual non-cash amortization expense over time of our assets, primarily our building at 919 Pandora and the new roads leasehold improvements. We had an increase. Where's my deferred contributions? I will go down a little bit. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. We had an increase in deferred contributions. These are funds provided by either government grants or private donors that we're currently holding for future projects. Deferred contributions are recognized as revenue during the year as program expenses are incurred and projects are completed. This increase in deferred contributions corresponds with the increase in cash and cash equivalents that I just discussed. Moving along to the next page is our statement of operations, or our profit and loss statement. It details our income and expenses for the year. So our donations, the first line, saw a decrease of 7.1%, a change of $399,000. Part of this reduction was a change in the annual amount donated from the foundation to the society. In 2023, the foundation donated $350,000 to the society, and this year, the foundation donated $286,000 due to reduced need in 2024. This leaves a difference of approximately $335,000 in donations year over year. As Julian mentioned, while other nonprofits have seen considerably larger decreases in donations, given the current economic climate, this is a reasonable reduction, and the continued generosity of our donors is exceptional. We saw an increase of $366,000 in grants and another $399,000 in housing. These are the lines on which government support, primarily BC Housing, is reflected. As the cost to operate programs rises, so does the funding provided. Moving to expenses. In November 2022, which is during the prior fiscal year, the financial effects of unionization took effect. This fiscal year is the first year under which the entire year the society has been unionized. This is reflected in increased costs of salaries and wages year over year, which translates into an increase in the majority of expense categories. Administration costs increased by $437,000. While at first this increase may look out of place, the funding from grants and housing has also increased year over year. A portion of the funding provided is allocated to directly offset administrative costs. The main increase in admin costs this year was additional salaries and wages in the housing administration and scheduling teams. As the operations have grown, the need for program administration and management have increased. Also, when our programs grow, so do other non-salary related administration expenses, especially the cost of insurance, IT, audit, and training fees, not to mention the cost of groceries, which I'm sure we all feel in our own pocketbooks. Separate, which doesn't fall in the admin line, but I just wanted to throw that in there. Separate from the day-to-day operation of the program and facilities is the fourth line down, donations, which shows an expense of $957,000. It is our policy to transfer, by way of donation, 80% of the bequests received, as well as an annual amount to put away for future capital and operating reserves to the Our Place Foundation. In 2023, we received multiple large bequests, which increased our donation to the foundation. The bottom line, a surplus of revenue over expenses of $16,600 for the year has been added to our reserves for future use for special projects or unexpected expenses. Following the statement of operations, there are a number of notes, and there are two notes that I would like to highlight. The notes that follow in the statements provide more detail about some of the line items. The first one I would like to bring to your attention is note number 10, regarding remuneration to directors, employees, and contractors. This note is required under the BC Societies Act. In 2023, there were 16 individuals who received total remuneration of over $75,000, including benefits. In 2024, there were 86 individuals who received remuneration of over $75,000, including benefits. This increase is directly attributable to increased rates of pay driven by a full year of unionization, as well as an increased cost of benefits, which now includes pension contributions and employer-paid LTD premiums. The higher benefit cost increases the total remuneration paid to an individual employee, which in turn increases the number of individuals over 75,000. I would also like to draw your attention to note number 12 on pages 13 through 15. The Our Place Society Foundation and the Upper Room are both under the common control of Our Place Society. The Upper Room has assets of $38,000, and the foundation has total assets of $6.8 million, which represents the society's operating and capital reserves and a restricted legacy fund from the Pacific Mountain region of the United Church of Canada. These reserves and funds ensure the long-term stability of Our Place Society for many years to come. Those are the highlights of the audited financial statements. I am happy to take any questions that you may have. Nope,
I don't see any questions.
Okay. Then I will ask Kent if he can review the independent auditor's report for us, please.
Sure. Thanks, Michelle. That was excellent. I think, like I was mentioned earlier, my name is Kent Fullerton, and I'm a partner with Grant Thornton. And just want to say thanks to Our Place and the board for inviting me today to their AGM. Greatly appreciated. The independent auditor's report is kind of goes over 2 pages. And what it is expressing is what we were engaged to do. So an independent auditor is a professional, and what they are hired to do is examine an organization's financial statements and ensure that the statements are accurate and they comply with the accounting standards. And for Our Place Society, the accounting standards are the ones that are required for not-for-profit organizations. The goal of the financial statement audit is for the independent auditor to provide an unbiased opinion on whether the financial statements present a true and fair view of the organization's financial position. So as Michelle was going through the information and going through the amounts and the line items, the auditor is assessing as to whether that information is accurate and is free of material misstatement. So our audit report for the year ended March 31st is an unbiased opinion, and that's also known as a clean audit report, which is the best kind in the type of audit report that an organization would like to receive. So that means that the statements of Our Place Society are accurate and they're free of material misstatement. The auditor opinion, it matters significantly to the readers and the users of the statement. So there's lots of organizations, whether it's funders, whether it's the government, whether it's lenders, are going to rely on the accuracy of the financial statements. And at the end of the report, there is a date. And so the date of the opinion was June 26th, which coincides with the date that the board and management formally approved the financial statements. And then Grant Thornton will issue our audit opinion and released our report on that same date. And I just wanted to say, thanks to Michelle and her team for their amazing assistance and support throughout the process. Greatly appreciated. And it's critical for the audit process to run smoothly. So I just want to say thanks for allowing me to be here. And that concludes my comments with respect to the audit report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions related to the audit report? Seeing none, I'll then move to the motion, which is that I move that the March 31st, 2024 audited financial statements as presented be approved. Do I have a seconder? Greg, I see you seconding. Thank you. And so I'll now call the vote, please. And I'm seeing It looks like the motion has passed. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is that of the appointment of the auditors. Under the bylaws of Our Place Society, at each general meeting, the society has to appoint an auditor to hold the office for the coming fiscal year. As Michelle said earlier, the auditing firm of Grant Thornton has been the auditor for Our Place Society for many years. And throughout the years, the relationship has been a professional and a helpful one. They've demonstrated a good understanding of our organization and its purpose. The Board of Directors recommends to the membership that Grant Thornton be reappointed. And to that end, I'd like to move that Grant Thornton be appointed auditor for the next financial year. Is there a seconder? Mano, thank you. And I'll now call the vote, please. Okay. And yes, I'm seeing lots of green ticks, so thank you. Grant Thornton is again appointed. Thank you very much. The motion has passed.
Thank you very much, Patricia, and thank you, Michelle. Yeah, she's absolutely right to, I don't know what we'd do without either of you, actually. I now call on Greg Connor, the chair of the Board Development Committee, to present the committee's report. Among other responsibilities, the Board Development Committee is responsible for recruiting and scrutinizing potential candidates for nomination to the board, and he has a rather lengthy presentation this evening, so let's let him roll. Thanks, Greg.
She's always trying to hurry me up. Thank you. I will hold my comments on what a fabulous candidate slate I think we have. Well, I already let that go. But we have candidates that I would like to propose, and I would then call for a seconder and then call the vote. So and in your packages, you have a bio on each one of them. So for election as a director for first 2-year term, we have 4 candidates. The first one is Susan Climie. I shall move. May I have a seconder on that? Chad, I see. Can I call a vote then, please? Linda, would you be so kind as to count the check marks, please? Just till we're sufficient. Thank you.
It's passed.
It looks like we're good to go. Welcome aboard, Susan. Well, thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. Ian said that we had 19. Ian and I go way back, and so he's always been there to count for me, because I am in HR after all. So the next one we have up for election as a director for a first 2-year term is Glenn Cheater. I'll make that motion. May I have a seconder, please? Alan, I said, oh, no, Alan, if you don't mind, Corrine, because I won't see your hand up for a while from now on. So please, Corrine is the seconder. May I move that vote then, please? Call the vote. All right, Ian, you let me know when we're there. 20, we are there. Thank you. Just take my hand down. Right, and again, this is, I guess I'm not very good at doing these in alphabetical order. The next director election is Philip Calvert. Philip, you should have been first on my list. So I will make the motion for Philip. May I have a seconder, please? And I see Catherine Reed. Thank you, Catherine. And call the vote. And we have 21 votes in favor. And for election as a director for her first 2-year term, Cheryl Winizenki Yolande. May I have a seconder for that motion, please? And again, Catherine. And call the vote. Just waiting for confirmation of numbers. Well, Ian's gone from 19 to 20, 21, 22. So you're getting more popular as we go along. So thank you. That was the directors for the first 2-year term. Now I have 4 more directors. I have, or sorry, 3 more for election as a director for a second 2-year term is Charla Huber. I'll make that motion. May I have a seconder, please? And Alan, thank you. And I call the vote. All right. Again, I have 22 votes. Welcome back, Charla. You can't go now. And up next for election as a director for a second 2-year term, Catherine Reed. I will make that motion. May I please have a seconder? And Patricia is my seconder. Thank you very much. Oh, I forgot to call the vote, but I have the vote there. Thank you, Ian. I was trying to make it through without error. And but we have 21. Thank you. And welcome back, Catherine. And for election as a director for a 3rd-year term is Scott McGregor. And thank you, Scott, for standing again. And I'm going to ask for a seconder. And Alan. And so I will, thank you, Alan. I will call the vote, please. And Scott, you had 23 votes in favor of you not being able to leave us. So therefore, you cannot. That brings to a close our nominations, our slate of nominations. And I will say this is a fabulous group. Lots of very passionate people. As you read in their bios, we've got a very broad set of skills and a wonderful group of people. And I'm looking forward to working with them on the last year that I've been blessed to serve on this board. So I thank you. And that so ends my report, Margot.
Excellent job, Greg. Excellent job. And if you see the faces on the board, it has been your incredible strength and guidance that have brought the board together the way it has. So we're extremely grateful that you bring us together and that you've recruited us and that you know we're working with you. So I thank you for that. The next part of our agenda is just to acknowledge those phenomenal board members. We're losing 3 real pillars of the board this fall, and they finished their terms or for personal reasons left the board. But I would like to recognize Laurie Austin, Laurie, Patricia Walker, and Kareem McDonald. They have served on the Our Place board with wisdom and good humor and grace. And you will be dearly missed. And I just wanted to thank you for your service. I'm sure that everyone on the board feels that way. So thank you for your hard work. And I think that's the end. I'm going to thank you all for your interest and support and for attending this meeting, which is so important. As the business of the meeting has been completed, can I please have a motion to adjourn? Maybe from, yeah, Chad Stewart's got his hand up, thank you. So it's moved by Chad, seconded by Mano. Thank you. And I call the vote. It's a lot of good yeses up there. Thank you very much. I'm assuming that passes and the meeting is adjourned. Thanks for your participation.
Margot?
No, no.
I'm sorry, but I think we have a guest speaker to...
Oh my God. You know what? That's why I have an old agenda in front of me. Oh my gosh, Veronica. We saved the best for last. And it's my fault because I have,
It's okay, It really is okay, Margot. I can go for dinner now if you want.
No, we saved you to the end. And then I went to, anyways. Our guest speaker this evening is going to be introduced by Dawn Barr, who is our manager of volunteer services and a real mainstay of Our Place staff. And she will say wonderful things about Veronica, but I can hardly wait to hear from her. So please go ahead, Dawn.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me this evening. As Margot said, I'm Dawn Barr. I'm the manager of volunteer services here at Our Place Society. And I have known this special volunteer for almost the 6 years that, well, over 6 years that I've been here. And she has been here longer than I have. So I have known her my tenure, and I just can't speak enough about her leadership, her mentorship, her friendship. She is just an amazing woman who I have admiration for with her dedication to Our Place Society. She's a new grandma like me, and I am so honored, and it's my pleasure to let you know that her capacity of volunteering at Our Place far surpasses the pie chart of colors that I have for roles on on our Better Impact volunteer management system. It is a true honor. I greatly respect this woman. It's a true honor to introduce you to Veronica Osborne. Thank you, Veronica, for being here.
Thank you, Dawn. You're always so generous, and I really appreciate it. And I can't think of anybody better to introduce me tonight than a fellow new grandma. So thank you for that. I also want to thank the board and members of the society for the opportunity to speak to you this evening about my volunteer experience at Our Place. By way of background, I've been volunteering for the better part of the last 35 years. With several local and provincial not-for-profit organizations. And I've always been very intentional about the causes and organizations I support. And when I say intentional, I mean, where and how can I be of greatest service? Initially, I settled on services for women and children by volunteering at Victoria Women's Transition House and heading up fundraising efforts here on the island for BC Children's Hospital. With that said, I've been happy to volunteer wherever I felt my skills and abilities would be of greatest help, and in whatever way the organization or event needed, whether chairing a large fundraiser, heading up the board of a hospital foundation, or managing volunteers for a team event. Officially, I've been volunteering for Our Place since 2018. However, my involvement really started in 2014 and again in 2015, when as a member of the Chinatown Lioness Club, I assisted then Victoria Council member Charlene Thornton-Joe to serve a special Chinese New Year meal to family members at the community center. When Julian invited me to speak this evening, he commented that I'd volunteered in just about every department of Our Place. Well, that's not quite accurate and not entirely accurate. I have had the privilege, honestly, of contributing my time, skills, and energies to several different areas of the organization. From the moment I stepped into the serving area of the Our Place kitchen in 2014 and experienced what I know a number of you have too, that sort of full-on pace of putting together plates of food for for whom a Chinese meal might have been a mere memory at the time, and then sat down and talked to some of the family members, I knew I belonged. In the intervening years, my thoughts kept returning to what I'd seen and heard during those hectic but rewarding events. And so it was that I contacted the then manager of volunteers and asked if I could volunteer at our place on a more formal basis. It was at the volunteer orientation session that I learned our place had just launched a new program to help people break through multiple barriers to get back into the workforce. As I had a writing business at the time, I thought I could perhaps help clients with resume writing. My 3+ years volunteering at Next Steps to Employment, which later was rebranded by me as Our Workplace, provided both challenges and triumphs, but ultimately disappointment when government funding ended. However, my time there gave me a much better understanding of the barriers placed before people who, because of substance use disorders, mental health challenges, past incarceration, and any number of other reasons, find it next to impossible to get, most importantly, keep a job. My volunteer duties at Our Workplace were as varied and as unpredictable as the people who came through the door. But they included hosting V's Corner. I'm V, by the way. V's Corner for those men and women who just wanted to drop in and have a coffee and a chat. Reception duties, facilitating workshops, and creating and writing a bi-monthly newsletter that I named Hire Ground, H-I-R-E, Ground. Profiling the work of Our Workplace staff and chronicling the experiences and successes of some of its clients. Concurrently, I volunteered on the reception desk at 919 Pandora. If I thought volunteering at Our Workplace was unpredictable, I was to experience an entirely different dynamic behind the front desk, one which gave me a crash course, frankly, on the street environment. If I may, I'd like to relate one of my experiences while on the desk. It's one that's really has stayed with me, and I want to share it with you tonight. So an otherwise quiet afternoon was suddenly shattered when a young woman, she couldn't have been more than 19 or 20 and tiny in stature, burst through the front door screaming at the top of her lungs, and quickly followed by 4 or 5 uniformed police officers who cornered her in the lobby. All the while, the young woman's screams grew louder and louder until she let out a scream that seemed to emanate from her soul, and which I'll never forget. The sight of the officers, all of whom were male and considerably larger than her, surrounding the young woman was really truly unforgettable. Once she was handcuffed and taken out of the building, I learned that she had been evading police for days. They were in possession of a mental health order and therefore obliged to track her down and remove her from the street. To this day, I remain hopeful that she received the treatment she deserved. More importantly, I hope that better ways of making these apprehensions have been found. While this incident is etched in my memory, it's important to say that in the aftermath, Our Place security and other staff were quick to ask me if I was okay and help me to understand the realities of what had just transpired. I remain extremely grateful for their support that day, and I'm also grateful that I had the opportunity to debrief with our volunteer manager, Dawn Barr. Perhaps the most important aspect of being on the front desk was the opportunity to see and gain a better understanding and appreciation of the work of Our Place's frontline support workers and to interact with many family members. Equally as important, I had the opportunity to meet donors to Our Place, to thank them for their donations and to learn about their reasons for wanting to support the increasingly essential work of the society. And it goes without saying that the COVID pandemic profoundly impacted us all. For me, it meant that I had to stop volunteering at Our Place for a while. However, I found ways to keep in touch with management, frontline staff, and even a few family members. This period also ushered in a new way for me to support Our Place by making a series of financial donations to support the organization through some of the most consequential changes it had faced. During this period, I also volunteered as a member of the Our Place Advisory Cabinet, but stepped away from the group when the lure of becoming part of the annual Hungry Hearts fundraising gala was just too much to resist. In 2023, I took on the role of auction coordinator, and this year I co-chaired the gala. While this year's Hungry Hearts, held last Saturday, is still fresh in my mind, I want to say that once again, the opportunity to volunteer alongside the talented and hardworking staff in the philanthropy office has been such an enormous pleasure for me. Oh, and if you haven't already heard, I just want to correct something that Julian said earlier. We actually raised $310,000 to support the new Women's Recovery Center out at New Roads. As many of you will know, Our Place offers a seniors program through the community center. Included in that offering is a hospital visitation program, to which I recently signed up as a volunteer. It seemed a logical next step in my volunteer journey, having headed up a long-term care hospital foundation some years ago, and as a senior myself. So to sort of wrap it all up, I guess, I wanted to end my presentation almost where I started, by talking about the intentionality of my volunteering. To me, volunteering is as much about learning as it is about service. So I approach all of my volunteer commitments with an open heart, without judgment, and with an eagerness to learn. I do what I'm asked to do, not what I want to do. Suggestions on how I believe things could be done differently or improved can wait until after the volunteer shift is over. I think it's fair to say that whatever I've been able to achieve through my volunteering at Our Place has been due in great part to the support of the staff at Our Place. The Society's mission to bring hope and belonging not only applies to family members seeking the support of Our Place, but it extends to its volunteers as well, who are supported, encouraged, and guided by a truly professional volunteer manager in Dawn Barr, ably assisted by Jennifer Caldwell. The ability to, quite honestly, wrangle close to 300 active volunteers so successfully not only ensures that the Society's operational needs are met, but it also ensures the volunteer experience itself is a meaningful one. So I kind of acknowledge that what I've said in this address, it sounds a bit like a personal resume. However, those who know me know that what I do for the Society has never, ever been about me. That said, I do hope I've managed to paint a bit of a picture of what inspires me to volunteer and how valued and at home I've always felt serving Our Place. And I'll just end with a very quick story. At the recent Hungry Hearts Gala, one of our guests asked, what's next for me in terms of volunteering for Our Place? I said, and I meant it, I said, I'd like to go back to serving meals in the community center. That's where it all started for me and where I feel most at home, feeding hope. Thank you for giving me this time.
Veronica, that was wonderful. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful and so worthwhile. And I'm so sorry that we almost lost you, but I'm so glad you stuck it out until we got to hear you. Thank you so much for those. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Yes, we'll all be doing backstroke of our studies on the way out. I first met Veronica when we worked at Next Steps together, and you are as fabulous as you sound. Everybody should know that. She's one of our best. I'm so glad we were able to hear from you tonight.
Thank you.
All right, then. Now I'm going to go to number 15 again on this whole script. You should really fire me. That's what I said to Chad. You should just fire me. But thank you again. Thanks for all your interest and support for attending this meeting. As the business of the meeting has now been completed in a beautiful fashion, may I please have a motion to adjourn? I think I see Chad's hand up. That's awesome. It's seconded by Cheryl. Thank you. And I'll call a vote. The meeting is adjourned. It is 7:06 p.m. and I wish you all a good evening.